Have you ever wondered why the most powerful people say the least? Why is it that those who stay quiet often move the farthest, the fastest, in a world obsessed with oversharing? There's a hidden advantage in staying silent, and today we're going to uncover it. There's something profoundly powerful about silence, about choosing to keep certain parts of yourself tucked away, protected from the noise of the world. In a time where nearly everyone rushes to share their every thought, every feeling, and every move online, choosing privacy is not just a preference, it's a strategy. When people don't know much about you, they can't guess your next move. They can't sabotage your plans. And most importantly, they can't use your own words to hurt you later. That's the edge privacy gives you. In fact, privacy is power. Too often, we confuse openness with trust. We assume that telling others everything will bring us closer, make us feel more connected. But here's the truth. Not everyone who listens has good intentions. Some people only pay attention so they can spot your weaknesses. They nod, they smile, they act supportive, but deep down, they're collecting ammunition for a day when it suits them to judge you, manipulate you, or betray you. Look around today. People are pouring out their hearts to strangers online, sharing heartbreaks, dreams, failures, and frustrations. And then, they're surprised when they're met with betrayal, judgment, or backlash. But how could it be otherwise? When you hand out pieces of your story to just anyone, you give them the power to reshape it. You allow them to define what you're capable of, what you deserve, and even what your future should look like. But when you guard your plans, your emotions, and your private life, you stay in control. No one gets to write your narrative but you. Think for a moment about those who truly hold influence, the ones who always seem 10 steps ahead. They don't announce their moves. They don't explain every decision. They don't beg for attention. They move in silence, because they know something most people don't. Privacy protects progress. The moment you share too much, you invite interference. It could come in the form of doubt, envy, or unsolicited opinions. The more people know, the more they feel entitled to comment, and not every opinion is worth hearing. Have you noticed that the people who talk the most about what they're going to do often accomplish the least? Talking gives a false sense of achievement. You announce a dream, people cheer, and suddenly it feels like you've already arrived. But nothing's actually happened yet. The real achievers let their results do the talking. They don't need applause, they need action. Being private doesn't mean you're secretive or antisocial. It means you're intentional. It means you decide who gets access to what and why. Not everyone needs to hear your struggles. Not everyone deserves to know your dreams. Not everyone should be invited into your vulnerable moments. And once you start being selective with what you share and with whom, you'll notice something incredible. Life feels quieter, lighter, more focused. The distractions fade. The drama disappears. And your energy, it sharpens like a laser. There's a reason the most peaceful and successful people also tend to be the most private. They know the truth. When you guard your personal life, you protect your energy, and when your energy is protected, there's room for growth, for clarity, for real happiness. So the next time you feel the urge to post your next big move or vent your problems to someone who hasn't earned your trust, pause. Ask yourself, does this really need to be shared? Will this serve me or expose me? Because once something is out there, the less they know, the more you stay in control. In the last part, we talked about how once something personal is shared, you can never truly take it back. That's why protecting your privacy isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And now, let's dig deeper into why that matters more than ever. You see, not everyone who claps for you wants you to win. Not everyone who smiles at you is genuinely happy for you. Some people, they're only there to observe, to gather intel, not out of concern or support, but out of curiosity, or worse, envy. These people don't always strike immediately. They're patient. They collect your words, your emotions, your dreams like weapons, tucking them away until the perfect moment arrives when their jealousy flares, or their insecurities creep in. And then suddenly, you're hearing your own private thoughts echoed in conversations you never consented to. That's when the realization hits: what you thought was a friend was just a well-disguised spy. Ever notice how certain plans fall apart right after you share them with someone? You were focused, making quiet progress. Then excitement got the better of you. You shared your wins with the wrong person. And suddenly, doors started closing. Energy shifted. Obstacles appeared out of nowhere. Coincidence? Probably not. It doesn't always take sabotage. Sometimes, just their negative energy, their silent disbelief, or their envy is enough to knock you off course. That's why being mindful is critical. Not paranoid. Not fearful. Just aware. You don't have to shut the whole world out. But you do need to learn who's really for you and who's just there for the front row view of your life. Some people want proximity. Not because they care, but because they want to say, "I was there when it happened," or worse, claim a piece of your success for themselves. Others only stick around to make sure you don't rise too far above them. And then there are those who only keep you around for comparison so they can feel better about themselves, or so they have new material for their next gossip session. And the painful truth is, you often don't see these people for who they are until it's too late. By then, they've taken what they needed and disappeared. That's why your dreams, your struggles, your fears, your inner world must be protected. The less others know, the less they can distort. The less they know, the less they can judge. The less they know, the less control they have over you. Don't make the mistake of assuming time equals loyalty. Just because someone's been around for years doesn't mean they're on your side. Loyalty is measured in character, not in calendars. Some people will walk beside you for a long time, pretending to cheer you on while secretly hoping you never outgrow them. You have to observe more than you listen. Watch how people respond when things start going well for you. Do they truly celebrate you? Or do they go quiet, disappear, or toss subtle jabs that make you second-guess yourself? The signs are always there. You just have to be willing to see them. At the end of the day, you owe no one an explanation for your dreams, your moves, or your path, especially if they haven't earned your trust. Your peace, your energy, your privacy, those are your treasures. And once you give them away too freely, you also give away control. Because the moment you realize you've said too much to the wrong person, it's usually already too late. There's something deeply powerful about a person who says little, but moves with quiet confidence, someone who doesn't feel the need to explain themselves to the world. And that's exactly what we're about to explore next: the undeniable power of mystery, and how keeping people guessing is one of the smartest moves you'll ever make. Let them wonder. The power of mystery. You've just explored why protecting your energy and guarding your privacy is essential, because once your words are out, you lose control. Now, let's go deeper into a subtle but powerful truth. Mystery demands respect. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't explain themselves to the world, someone who speaks little, but moves with quiet confidence. When people can't quite figure you out, when they don't know what you're planning, when they can't predict your next move, they're forced to do one thing: watch and wonder. And it's in that space between curiosity and uncertainty that real power begins. You see, people are naturally curious. They want to know what you're thinking, how you feel, what your next step is. But most of the time, it's not because they genuinely care. It's because they want to measure you, label you, and fit you neatly into a box they can understand. But the moment they think they have you all figured out, they stop paying attention. The moment they believe they know everything about you, they stop respecting your depth. That's why it's important, essential, even to leave something unsaid, to keep a part of yourself private, to never give people enough information that they feel like they can define who you are. Think of those individuals who command a room the moment they walk in. It's not because they're loud. It's not because they're showing off. It's because they carry an invisible force and air of intentional restraint. They don't reveal everything. They don't explain their every move. And that's exactly why people pay attention. The truth is, the more you say, the less your words matter. When you're always explaining, always defending, always trying to prove something, you actually make it easier for others to challenge you. You give them ammunition to question your path, your worth, and your decisions. But when you say less, when you move with quiet purpose, and let people wonder instead of handing them all the answers, you become untouchable. Ever notice how those who talk the most are often taken the least seriously? That's because when you overshare, when you open every door of your life, people begin to believe they have a stake in it. They start thinking they can offer their opinion or worse, control the narrative. And once they feel they can predict you, they stop respecting you. But when they don't know what's next, when they can't categorize you, when you remain a step outside their assumptions, that's when the why start paying real attention. That's when your presence speaks louder than your words ever could. Now, this doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being deliberate about what you share and with whom. Some believe that being open is a sign of strength, that telling everyone everything means they're real, but true strength, it's not in what you reveal. It's in what you choose to hold back. It's knowing that not every emotion needs to be explained. Not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every plan needs to be shared. Power lies in restraint, in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. Because here's the truth. When people don't know too much about you, they can't draw a full picture. They might guess, they might assume, but they'll never be certain. And that uncertainty, that's your edge. That's what keeps them curious. That's what keeps them watching. And while they watch, while they wonder, you build in peace. So don't rush to explain yourself. Don't overshare out of habit or pressure. Don't hand people the blueprint to your life. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them respect the fact that they'll never fully figure you out. Because once they realize that they can't pin you down, can't predict you, can't define you, they'll have no choice but to respect you. And coming up next, we'll uncover why telling too much to the wrong person can turn even small struggles into big problems, and why silence often protects more than your secrets. It protects your peace. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your struggles. In the last section, we saw how keeping people guessing gives you power, because when they don't have the full picture, they can't control your narrative. But there's more to it. Sometimes, simply sharing your struggles with the wrong person can turn a spark into a wildfire. Have you ever noticed that a problem seems to get worse the moment you talk about it with someone? Maybe you confided in a person you thought you could trust. You shared something deeply personal, thinking they'd listen with compassion, but instead, they twisted your words, spread your business, or worse, used your vulnerability against you. That's not an accident. Some people don't listen to help. They listen to respond. They listen to collect information. They listen because they're entertained by your pain. It's harsh, but it's true. People love a good story, especially when it's not theirs. They crave gossip. They live for the inside scoop. And if you keep feeding them pieces of your life, thinking it's safe, they'll keep coming back, not to support you, but to stock up on fresh drama. Before you even realize what's happening, your personal moments are no longer yours. Your pain becomes public property, twisted, exaggerated, passed around like a rumor that barely resembles the truth. Some of these people are masters of pretense. They'll act concerned. They'll ask thoughtful questions at just the right time. They'll lean in like they genuinely care. But watch what happens afterward. Do they keep your confidence? Do they follow up with real support? Or do they vanish until the next juicy detail they can sink their teeth into? You'll find that the wrong people don't care about your healing, they care about your headlines. And when you give them to many, don't be surprised when your own words come back to you from someone else's mouth. Here's something to think about. Not all conflicts start because of what happened. Many start because too many people knew about it. A disagreement between two people might have stayed small if only outsiders hadn't gotten involved. But now, opinions are flying. Sides are taken. And what could have been resolved quietly becomes a tangled mess you can't undo. That's why silence. It's not just wise. It's strategic. The less you say, the fewer chances people have to twist your words, hijack your narrative, or insert themselves into situations that don't concern them. And it's not just about hiding your pain. It's about protecting your joy. See, some people don't actually want to see you win. They'll act thrilled for your success, but underneath, they're waiting for your fall. The moment you rise, their insecurities rise with you. That's when the comments start. Are you sure this will work? You know, that's kind of risky. Maybe you're dreaming too big. Not because they've thought it through, but because they can't imagine themselves doing what you're doing. And if they can't rise, they don't want you to either. Have you noticed how some people only show up when you're down? But the moment things begin going well for you, they're gone. Silent, distant. That's because they were never comfortable with your growth. They liked you better when you were stuck, struggling, or quietly staying in your place. Their comfort zone is your lowest point. And the higher you rise, the more their doubts turn into quiet sabotage, small comments, subtle jabs, energy that drains your confidence little by little. But here's the beauty of silence. When you move in quiet, when you don't invite those people into your process, they can't interfere. They can't touch what they don't know about. At the end of the day, not everything deserves to be shared. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every decision needs validation from the outside. Peace comes when you protect your energy, when you choose to stay silent instead of seeking approval, when you keep your wins and your worries where they belong with you. People love to announce what they're going to do, dreams, plans, grand ambitions, thinking that speaking it out loud makes it more real. But the truth, words mean nothing without action. The more you talk, the more you burn energy that should be fueling your progress. The loudest voice in the room isn't always the strongest. It's usually the most distracted. True power lies in the one who stays focused, who moves with purpose, who doesn't seek applause because they know their results will speak loud enough. And in the next section, we'll see exactly how real success happens behind the scenes and why the people making the biggest impact rarely say a word until the work is done. Let the results speak, not the premise. Previously, we explored why silence protects your peace, because when fewer people know your business, fewer can disrupt it. Now, let's talk about another powerful truth. Those who achieve the most usually say the least. There's something magnetic about someone who doesn't feel the need to explain every move. Someone who doesn't narrate every step of their journey. They don't seek approval. They don't chase applause. They just work quietly, consistently, and then one day, boom, they arrive at the top. No warning. No speeches. Just results. You ever notice that? The most successful people rarely make loud declarations. They don't waste time convincing others of what they're going to do. Instead, they focus all that energy on actually doing it. And by the time anyone realizes what's happening, it's already done. That's because they understand something most people overlook. Real progress happens in private. When you keep your plans to yourself, you remove distractions. You shut the door on unsolicited opinions. And most importantly, you create the mental space to focus. But the moment you start talking too much about what you're going to do, you leave yourself wide open for doubt, for negativity, For resistance, some people won't believe in you. They'll tell you it's impossible, that you're not ready, that you should be realistic. Not because they truly understand your path, but because they can't picture themselves doing it. And if they can't envision their own success, they don't want you to succeed either. Others, they'll smile, nod, pretend to support you. But secretly, they'll hope you give up because your courage reminds them of everything they didn't pursue. Your action is a mirror to their inaction. And then there are the idea thieves. You share something exciting, something creative, something that feels like yours. But before you can bring it to life, someone else has already run with it. That happens more than you think. When your plans are public, they become vulnerable, easy to copy, easy to steal. But when you move in silence, when your goals remain tucked away until they're real, no one can take what they don't know about. Talking about your goals can create a false sense of progress. You say you're going to do something, people clap, and suddenly it feels like you've already done it. But applause without action, that's just noise. The hard truth is this: real work doesn't live in the announcement. It lives in the execution. And once the thrill of the announcement fades, you're left with the heavy lifting, the discipline, the effort, the consistency. And by then, you may have already burned through the energy you needed most. You don't owe anyone explanations. You don't need to justify your vision, your strategy, or your next move. The only proof you'll ever need is results. When you finally succeed, when you actually achieve what you've set out to do, those same people who doubted you, ignored you, or quietly hoped you'd fail, they'll be the ones asking, how did you do it? But by then, it won't matter, because you didn't do it for them. You did it for yourself. So stop wasting time talking. Stop wasting energy explaining. Stop giving people the opportunity to block what they can't see. Stay focused. Stay quiet. And let your results do all the talking. Because when people don't know what's happening in your life, they can't interfere. They can't delay your momentum. And they certainly can't plant seeds of doubt in places where confidence is meant to grow. Protecting your privacy isn't about being mysterious, it's about protecting your focus, your peace, and your progress. The more people know, the more they'll try to insert their opinions into your path. And let's be honest, not every opinion is worth hearing. Some advice might come from a good place, but too much input, too many voices, that leads to confusion, hesitation, and unnecessary self-doubt. Suddenly, you're second-guessing what you were once sure about, all because you let the wrong voices in. In the next section, we'll uncover what happens when you let those voices shape your decisions and how tuning them out may be the best move you'll ever make. Your journey is yours. Protect it. Throughout this message, we've uncovered a truth that's both timeless and deeply personal. Your power grows in silence. Because the more people know about your life, the more they feel entitled to shape it. The more access you give, the more opinions you'll attract, and not all of them will serve you. Have you ever noticed how even well-meaning advice can leave you second-guessing yourself? Someone tells you, that's not realistic, or you should wait, and suddenly, what once felt clear is now clouded with doubt. Even if you don't fully believe those doubts, they linger. They echo at your weakest moments. They crawl into your mind when you're trying to take bold steps forward. That's the danger of giving too many people a seat at the table of your dreams. And sadly, not everyone clapping for you is truly in your corner. Some people pretend to support you but quietly hope you fail. They smile. They nod. They say all the right words. But inside, they're afraid of your growth. Because your rise forces them to face the fact that they've settled. When you change, when you evolve, it reveals their own lack of progress. And instead of rising with you, they'd rather pull you back. They'd rather make you feel guilty for dreaming bigger, for wanting more, for refusing to stay small. That's why protecting your energy isn't optional. It's essential. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your goals, or your heart. The more voices you let in, the harder it becomes to hear your own. The more opinions you invite, the more distant you grow from your inner compass. Soon, you're not just hearing noise, you're letting it guide you. You start hesitating. You start shrinking. You start looking outward for approval, when what you really need is to look inward for clarity. Some people will drain you, and you won't even realize it's happening. They'll show up with their drama, their doubts, their negativity. And little by little, your mental space, your fuel for growth, gets used up on things that have nothing to do with you. But growth, real, lasting growth, requires focus. It requires discipline. It requires a kind of tunnel vision that most people won't understand. And that's okay. You're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're not here to explain yourself to people who don't carry your vision. You're here to become the person you were created to be. And that journey, it doesn't require an audience. The ones who are meant to support you will cheer you on from the sidelines even without knowing every detail. The ones who aren't, they'll slowly fade away when they realize they no longer have access to your story. Silence isn't weakness. Privacy isn't isolation. It's strength. It's clarity. It's understanding that some things are sacred and they deserve to be nurtured in quiet until they're strong enough to withstand the noise of the world. So protect your peace. Guard your energy. Keep growing quietly and consistently. Because when you move in silence without distraction, without interference, that's when you truly thrive. And in the end, they won't need to hear your plans. They'll see your results. In a world that constantly demands visibility, there is quiet strength in staying hidden. There is clarity in silence. And there is power in privacy. We often feel pressured to share, to post, to explain, to prove. But true wisdom lies not in how much you reveal, but in what you choose to protect. When you guard your thoughts, your plans, your emotions, you create a sacred space where purpose can grow without interruption. You move with freedom. You rise without noise, and you build something real. Something lasting. Not everyone needs access to your inner world. Not everyone deserves to hear your dreams. Because once you give away too much of yourself, you give away your direction, your peace, and sometimes even your destiny. So choose silence when it matters. Let mystery work in your favor. Don't speak to impress. Let your life speak for itself. Because the less they know, the more you remain in control. Privacy is not about hiding. It's about preserving. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all.